All right, welcome back to the Working on the Dad Pod. I am Alex, and with me, as always, is my co-host Ethan. Ethan, how's it going?
Hey, I'm all right. How are you, man?
I'm doing okay. I've had a little bit of a personal crisis yesterday because my wife informed me that she prefers plain raw string cheese to mozzarella sticks, and I have been unsure of how to handle that information. I think if you can batter and fry something, it absolutely tastes better, no matter whether it's better or not for your waistline. So,
Yeah, that hurts to hear me. And like your wife's eating habits don't impact me at all, but I feel personally intact. So,
yeah, it stemmed from a glut of string cheese for the kids' lunches, and I said, "Well,
sure,
I could
sure.
always batter them up and put them in the air fryer and make some mozzarella sticks." She's like, "I don't know if you're joking, but I'd rather just have the string cheese." So, little
Wow. So
spot.
so is that your loss for the week?
It's a personal loss, but it wasn't a parenting loss because I haven't shared it
Yeah.
with the kids. I'm just gonna make the mozzarella sticks when she's out of the house, so we'll
That's
see
a
how it
win.
goes.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, let's get into wins and losses for the week. Why don't you kick us off?
So my win is a indirect parenting win, but I am 6 days into my new job, which is a promotion. It was a goal.
Congrats,
Thank you. It was a goal of
congrats.
mine to get. I'm really happy with what I can be doing, though I will admit I'm a little bit overwhelmed. There's a lot more to the job than they let on in the interview, but I guess that's what the money's for, as Don Draper would say. Um, but I
Exactly.
do want to just say, it's okay to feel overwhelmed and it's okay to talk about it. But this is overall a win, and I'm really happy and excited to hear your win. And I hope it's enough to counter this mozzarella stick fiasco.
Yeah, so this weekend was my daughter's very first dance recital. She's been in ballet. It was a Christmas present for her, so she's been in ballet since January. It's like a
Wonderful.
ballet tap combo, and she had her first dance recital, and the whole dance recital um, was just the 3 to 5 year old classes, and
Mm.
so
Mm.
it was beautifully chaotic,
Yeah.
um, but it was wonderful. All the kids were dancing. The theme was under the sea, so you had some
Oh,
Little
great.
Mermaid tracks in there. They threw in some Moana music. My
Okay.
daughter danced to a song I hadn't heard before about doing the mermaid wiggle or something like that. But
Mm.
I was a little pissed off because when my daughter's class got up there, right at that moment, someone in the theater decided to start cutting onions, and so I was very perturbed
Oh,
by the
yeah, yeah,
whole
yeah.
events.
I could see.
Yeah,
I could see. Yeah.
yeah. Luckily, the
Yeah.
lights were off though.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. That's great. Never want to be in like an onion cutting situation when your kid's doing something just truly beautiful and like it just shows the
Yeah,
that
yeah. I mean,
enthusiasm.
it's
Yeah.
a theater, guys. Where are we cooking here?
Right. Sure.
Um,
Sure. Sure. Sure.
what about loss for the week?
Well, we are recording on a Monday. For those of you who are loyal listeners, you know that I am solo with the girls most Saturdays, and my toddler, she happened to have a seven tantrum Saturday, starting with right
Ooh.
after she woke up, going all the way till when she went to bed. And I will say my loss is that out of seven of those tantrums, I think I tantrumed back to her at three of them. My wife always tells me that she and I are the same person. And after being
You and your
not
daughter are
with
the
my
same person.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, my daughter, my first daughter, my toddler, and I are the same person, that we argue the same way. I would like to say that she argues like a 34-year-old man, and I don't argue like a 3.5-year-old girl, but uh, that's up for debate. Your loss?
I mean, like I have something similar in terms of a meltdown, but I will say on that note, there are times where my daughter just spits my most toxic traits back in my face,
Mhm.
and I get that, and I'll be like, "Where did you learn that from?" And she'll be like, "I learned it from you, Dad." And she started saying that when it's not true, and so I
Mm,
can
mm,
catch her a little bit. But my loss was also a meltdown. So it was Memorial Day week, right?
mhm.
been a while since we recorded, but it was Memorial Day week. It was a Wednesday afternoon, I believe, but we were going just because of the weird camp schedules. We didn't have our normal morning routine of going to the gym. We're going to the gym in the evenings, right?
Okay.
And that's going to lead to probably a little bit more emotional problems as the kids are winding down. You know, it's 5:30 in the evening. I
Hmm.
get done with my workout. I walk into Child Watch. My son's happy to see me, and my daughter is like screaming. She's like, "No, don't come in, don't come in. I'm trying to make you a surprise." I'm
Mm.
like, "Okay." Unlike in the mornings, we don't have this hard stop of I've got to get you to daycare. I can go back out and like stretch out my hamstrings or something a little bit more. I'm like, "How many minutes you need?" Child watch lady, they're like, 5 minutes should be fine. I'm like, "Okay." I give them 7. Come
Hmm.
back in. Screams again. She is not done. She is not done with the project. All right. And I'm like, okay, listen, I'm tired. I'm stretched out. I'm limber. I'm everything. Not much more I can do, but I'll turn my back and I'll play with your brother because he's getting upset that I keep leaving.
Right.
So I'm going to
Right.
play with your brother. You finish it up. She finishes it up. It is 6 pieces of paper scotch taped together to form a cube. Like there's no
Okay.
folding, it's just flimsy box.
Hmm.
I thought this was a surprise. She hands it to me, and if you hand someone something and say, "Here you go," and they tell you beforehand that it's a surprise for you, "Here you go" seems to be the universal symbol for you can look at this thing.
Hmm.
So I look behind the corner of one of these pieces of paper and she loses it. She's like, "It's for Father's Day and you peaked." And I'm like, "Homie, it is June 1st. You've got 2.5 weeks until Father's Day. We're not even at Father's
Yeah.
Day as of this recording."
I can't believe you
And
ruined the Father's Day surprise, man. That's terrible.
she melts down. She is like, I'm like, "Listen, we've got to go. You know, Mom's making dinner. We got to get home and eat and all that stuff. Let's carry it out. I'm sorry, whatever." Um, but she is crying the whole way. We get outside and she's loosely holding this loosely taped together thing and it's blowing away in the wind. And I'm like, "You have got to hold on to this because it's going to blow away." 2 hands. It's in pieces are in the parking lot and she's just in a puddle on the sidewalk. Like she's just in a puddle losing it. And
Yeah.
somehow I had actually had a really bad stuffy nose the night before, and I think I maybe got 3 hours of sleep. Like I was out on the couch, I was trying everything, I couldn't sleep, and somehow I actually retained my composure. So it's a little bit of a hidden win, but I absolutely ruined her evening until we got home. My wife and my daughter had just gone to see the live action Little Mermaid. And without giving anything away, there's some new plot elements.
Okay.
Basically, she recites Ursula's chant that takes away
Hmm.
Ariel's voice
Okay.
and pretends to give me amnesia. And so I backflip over the couch and go, "What happened? I was walking in the gym and you said you needed to make me a surprise, and now we're home. How did we get here?" And she bought it hook, line, and sinker,
Right. That's
and was able
why are
to
you saying this in
do
the.
that.
That's a
Yeah,
win, man. That's a win.
not for me. I had to backflip over a couch and
Hey,
deal
at
with her
least
yelling all the way home. You know,
you
and I had
survived.
to. But it was one of those tantrums where sometimes you just have to be like, "Listen, you're buckled in, you're safe, we're going where we need to go. I'm not going to try and talk you out of this. You just got to work through this on your
You just
own
got
because I've said
yeah.
every piece of logic and illogic that I can come up with." So here we
I'm
are.
I'm gonna say that I will admit one of my weaknesses um, in parenting, which I hope I can turn into an opportunity for growth, is de-escalation. Because my
Mhm.
wife is a lot better at that than I am, given the nature of her job. It's a lot of public-facing customer service,
Sure, sure.
so I really need to work on um, how to de-escalate and get on the same level playing field as a 3.5-year-old. Because I guess I can be a little, you know, uh, I don't like the word antagonistic because I don't think I'm doing that, but the word has been said to
Yeah,
me. But I
I get it.
definitely am a little passive aggressively sarcastic and probably shouldn't be to
Sure.
a 3.5-year-old.
Sure. I deal with the same thing, and there have been some nights where I've really patted myself on the back for getting the "I'm not going to love you ever again if you make me go to bed, and not just
Mhm.
absolutely losing it because she's like intentionally, being a preschooler, trying to emotionally manipulate me. And at
Yeah.
8 o'clock at night, I'm at the end of my rope sometimes. And it's just like, takes everything to go. If I remain calm, I get to walk out of the room and it's over.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I need to
I've
I
I've
need to do a
I've
better
I've
job.
been there, but it's taken a lot of work. It's only been the
Yeah.
last few months that I've really gotten better, and it's still
Mhm.
not perfect
I was
progress.
I was gonna say you had a whole year head start on me, but honestly, the three nagers was really, if you say it's only been the last couple months, mine's really only been the last like month where she's gotten pretty bad in
Well, I
terms
meant
of
the last couple
teenageness.
months of me learning to keep my cool. She was
Oh, okay.
going through terrible twos and three-nagers, and I
Okay.
was chirping
Yeah.
back at her too much. But anyway,
Let's
that's
get into
that's
it.
enough kids with tantrums, because tonight we're actually talking about something that is really the absence of parenting. It's taking time for yourself, and I think this is, you probably know this. I know this. I struggle with this, and it's another area where I've gotten a lot better. But trying to find time for yourself away
Mhm.
from the kids, potentially away from your partner, where you can just kind of decompress. Because when you have those issues of like, you're always, getting them up, getting them to school, I mean, it can be a lot. What are some of the things you do to try and sort of decompress and chill out?
So I try to go for a jog, usually in the middle of the day. There's a nice little 5K route I put together around my neighborhood. That's usually about a
Nice.
half hour. I'm usually listening to a sports related podcast. And that usually works. Unfortunately, I've had a bad couple of weeks between the new job and the girls being homesick as the teleworking parent. I can't really go for a run when the girls are homesick. So I will
Not
say
without dropping
that,
100 on a jogging stroller or something.
yeah, no, it's not a bad idea. I'll definitely look into it. But I guess, and you and I have actually discussed this offline, I think like a few months ago, but um, one thing I truly love, I'm terrible at it, but I love playing golf. I'm very bad at
Yeah,
golf. I've never broken
sure.
100. But
Okay.
when I do get the opportunity to go to a driving range and just hit some balls, just doing that feels so good. But sometimes I do feel guilty, even though it's like only $10. I think like, do I really need to spend money on myself when
Hmm.
I could just go for a run? And
Yeah.
the answer is yes. I can spend money on myself. I just need to remember that in the moment.
Yeah, and I think there are levels to that, right? Like, are you going to go out and buy yourself a fancy new watch or something every time you want to treat yourself? I think that's probably not the answer, but
Right.
I struggle with that same thing too. Of like, okay, leaving the kids, leaving the wife, and going and doing something for myself. But I also play golf, and I actually was able to play golf yesterday morning with my
Oh,
dad while
nice.
he was in town,
That's
and we were
awesome.
able to play 9 holes. It's an easy cop out to pay for it and make it his Father's Day present,
Nice.
um, because we're the weekend before Father's Day as we're recording. But one thing, I basically, it's one of two hobbies I have, right? And the other one is homebrewing beer.
Hmm.
And I really like that. That is not necessarily one that has to be without the kids, because I have a certain system where I have an electric kettle. A lot of people that do it, they've got a giant propane burner sitting outside, open flame, can kind of be a little more dangerous. Mine's up on the
Yeah.
kitchen counter, plugged into an outlet. It's harder for, the kids can't really mess with it as much. So I can sort of do that and parent. But
Nice.
one thing my wife and I have done recently, and we just started it in May, um, is we decided, we were constantly running into this issue where, and maybe you and your wife experience this too, but when both of you are home and parenting the kids, and you just kind of don't have, neither one of you is at 100% and like on your A game, that you'll find that like who's in charge in the moment is like this moving. this moving target,
Yeah.
right? Where it's like you'll sort of catch it and be like, "Oh crap, was I supposed to be watching the kids? Because I thought you were watching the kids, and I was kind of washing some dishes and checking some messages on my phone and back
So
and forth."
we run into that problem too, but we also run into in the moment we're both not on our game, and a situation comes up where we're not on the same page on how to handle it, and
Mm,
so it there can sometimes be the feeling, and I will say sometimes I feel that
yeah,
she is undermining my parenting tactic in the moment, and
right,
I don't want to say that I for sure am better at not doing that than she is. But I will
right,
say that I feel like when I disagree with her, I talk to her about it after.
right.
But sometimes I feel like it doesn't happen. And then that can escalate
Hmm.
into poor behavior on my part, which is
Well,
why,
everybody's in a bad mood because she's
yeah.
already like upset because she doesn't whether upset because she doesn't
Hmm.
agree with what you're doing in the moment, and then that happens. I mean, that's happened with us. I think
Yeah.
we've gotten better about it by having conversations about it. But I think that's one of those sort of give and takes that is
It's
never
just part of,
master always working on.
yeah,
Um,
it's just part of, a relationship, and it just
yeah,
the kids add an external component that can really just escalate things exponentially. Yes,
sure.
you've done this longer than I have, both marriage and and parenting. But
Yeah,
yeah, one thing I really miss that I used to do for myself. Part of this is to blame of just being a bunch of crooks, but Movie Pass was excellent for me when I was
sure.
uh, you know not a dad and not living in a post pandemic epidemic lifestyle. But
Right,
I used
right.
to love just going to the movies by myself. I love going out to
Mhm.
eat by myself. And it's not that I
Yeah,
don't enjoy doing those things with my partner. It is, or anybody really. It's just that sometimes
sure
having that
is.
3 hour block, that is, and
Mhm.
which is like a very very long time to be by yourself. When I just saying it out
Right,
loud, it kind of shocked me. It's like, oh my god, no wonder I like love it so much when it's 3 hours,
right.
three
I mean,
full
yeah,
awake hours by myself. I
yeah,
Oh man, yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's
I've
kind of
lost
like
track.
golf. It's kind of like playing around to golf in that same vein, where you get those 4.5 hours on the course where you just
Yeah,
kind of got
wow.
a legitimate excuse to not be checking your phone,
Hmm.
not be on the hook, and all that stuff. But one thing we recently instituted in May was we decided that because this happens, this dynamic where we're not always sure who's in charge happens a lot on the weekends.
Hmm.
Um, we decided that one weekend each month, so it's 2 weekends per month, but one weekend each of us gets a Saturday off.
Okay.
All right. And so I used my first one in May to play 18 holes. I usually play nine at my local course, but I played 18 holes. And then I actually had my other one the past Saturday, and I was able to brew a batch of beer. And I also did it for my wife, and I've got my next one coming up next weekend, Father's Day weekend, actually. But we basically take the kids for the day. And if, like, for example, that first time where I wasn't going to be in the house, my wife can use the house. She can have the kids there or at a playground, or like she took them down to her mom's house because her mom has a pool. Obviously, we have a pool, but then she has her mom there as backup and support. I took the kids up a couple of cities north of us to a really nice farmers market they have downtown, and there's a brewery that has like outdoor games that the kids can play, like Giant Connect Four. My son doesn't know how to play Connect Four, but he can definitely put them on his wrist and walk around like he's Iron Man or something. So
Nice.
we started doing that where we gave ourselves one day off per month. And that's been really helpful for me. And my wife's only gotten one of them so far because this is month two and hers is coming up. But it's been really helpful for both of us. And
That
the
sounds
first time I took my mom with me, but that's been a really nice way for us to do it.
So that's interesting you say that because obviously it's a little different for us given that until my wife's work schedule were to change, I have every Saturday. Like she's working, which is work,
Sure.
but I've got every Saturday where at
Yeah.
least until 5 or 5:30, depending on how traffic and or metro is that day. Um,
Yeah.
you know, I've got it. So we actually talked about, and what really allowed this to happen was before I switched jobs, I went on a road trip, or not a road trip, work trip to Austin, Texas for 2 nights, and it was my first time away from both the girls since the second one was born, and my parents stayed
Mhm.
with our toddler.
Yeah.
But just knowing that I was able to go away, and she had her mom come and help, and it went okay. Like she was able to know that she could do two bedtimes around each
Yeah.
other like without me, and then uh, like you said, it's been a while since we recorded. So my dad was here the previous weekend, the one right after Memorial Day, when my wife went to a bachelorette party. So it was dads and girls, and
Hmm.
I was able to do it too. So now we've had this situation where we know that
Hmm.
not impossible to do two bedtimes solo. Our toddler
Yeah.
actually, especially when there's help, she'll take the grandparent and just play around in her room. But when it's
Yeah.
just a true solo night, she can actually be pretty good at just sitting in like the corner with the lights off in our infant's room and just
Yeah.
like putting her head on a pillow, just being part of us rocking her to sleep, which my wife claims she does really well. I have yet to try it myself. I usually, when I'm trying to get my infant down for nap, I'll usually just let her watch an episode of Daniel Tiger, and
Yeah. Yeah.
because that amount of time is usually what I need to do, like a pre-nap bottle, get her like get rock
Yeah.
her to sleep, and then you know. Um, but what I did want to say to relate it back to what you were talking about was now that I am
Yeah.
starting a new job and or have started a new job and I'm required to be in the office now 1 day a week, I was saying maybe not every week, but
Hmm.
why don't I use that opportunity to, you know, try to have more of a social life than I've had the last couple of
Sure.
years, where I can meet
Sure.
up with a friend for happy hour. I could try to do something else, and at the same
Yeah.
time, I've said to her, um, you know, that same the same goes for you. Like I can do the girls' bedtimes
Yeah.
one, every couple of weeks solo. If there's a night that you want to get happy
Right.
hour with your friends, why don't we do
Yeah.
that? You don't even have to make it with your friends. You could just like, if there's a night you don't want to come home for a while, like don't come home. Um,
Yeah.
so I think we'll try to implement that
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've got tomorrow night actually, I'm part of the local homebrew association, which
naturally.
is just a group of folks who get together and talk about brewing beer. And that's a once a month commitment. It's at a bar. I have a beer or two, I taste some homebrew samples. Um, and, that is one night a month that my wife has to do double bedtime. But like especially up until now, my work doesn't take me out of the house. I don't
Right.
have a lot of reason to be out of the house except for picking kids up, going to the gym, running errands. So it gets me out of the house. It gets me, I have friends there. I'm friendly with everybody there. And so it's a nice social event. And so finding something like that can be really, really helpful, I think, sometimes for emotional health for us as parents, moms, dads, you name it. And my wife is actually going to start something similar because the hobby she didn't have like a lot of hobbies. Her hobby
Right.
used to be yoga,
Hmm.
and she's a personal trainer and yoga teacher, and so it's become her job, and it's less like
Yeah. Less of a release. You know.
right before we had kids, before it was her profession. it was definitely the kind of thing that she'd love to go to like a 2 hour extended class or something like that. And the same thing went for, going to the movies and decompressing
Mhm.
there. And that's harder to do as a couple when you've got to find babysitting for the kids. I mean, our daughter, this Little Mermaid thing that I mentioned earlier, going and seeing that. It's the first time she's been in the theater, maybe the second time she's been in the theater. I think my mother-in-law took her to see Encanto because the theater was like empty and it was like 11 o'clock a.m. showing or something like that back when that released. And then she immediately regretted it when she realized it was a simultaneous release on Disney Plus.
That's really
And so
funny.
she's like, wait, I didn't have to take her to see that. She could have just
That's a
sat
good
on the
movie, though. Have you seen
yeah,
it? Yeah.
yeah, we watched. Trust me, because it was on Disney Plus. We watched it
Sure.
several times that week. But yeah, I think one of the through lines here that I found is whether it's something like going to a social event, social meeting, taking time for yourself, or even in the evenings or on a non, solo parent Saturday, needing
Hmm.
a couple minutes. The biggest thing is always communication.
Yeah.
And my wife and I really try to communicate back and forth where it's like if it's been a rough day. My son has recently gone through a phase where it's just mom all the time. I need mom all the time, mom all the time. He's still kind of in it, but he's getting better. And sometimes she'll just be like, listen, I need 10 minutes. And maybe she goes and lays down on the bed and scrolls through Instagram, or maybe she goes for a walk by
Hmm.
herself or does something where it's just like, I'm not available, like, and I'll sometimes take those same kind of opportunities, but we have to sort of be like, hey, are you okay if I do this? Are you okay if I do this? Because I think you're not doing this, I'm not doing this, but I think it's very much a thing where you see lots and lots of people talking about, not always being on the same page with that kind of back and forth.
Yeah. One thing I did want to say that I'm glad I just remembered to mention was with this new job, I am a lot more now in control of my work schedule. I'm not at the whim of a supervisor who regularly reschedules meetings. So
Nice.
today, and this is actually a tip you gave me a couple months ago, but now that I'm actually in a position to do it, I have put into my workday holds on my calendar and I've color coded them green, which to me means go exercise.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put that, I'm going to make sure to look at my schedule every Monday morning, knowing that I'm in the office on Wednesdays. So to make
Yeah.
sure that on a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday during the workday, that time that I'm taking my lunch is going to be my exercise. And then I will eat at my desk like a good employee.
Nice. There you go. There you go. Yeah. So I think that that's really the key on like as we talked about, just setting aside that time and making it purposeful. Obviously, you don't have to do what we do,
Sure.
we being me and my wife, or we being you and me on the hobbies we choose. Golf can be a frustrating and expensive hobby.
Yes.
Homebrewing is the same way, where it's like if I just calculated the cost of ingredients, it saves me money versus buying craft beer at the grocery store. But I spend a lot of money on equipment and other types of stuff for it. So it can add up. But one thing that I have found super helpful for my own mental health is when I'm taking this amount of time, whether it's 10 minutes that I'm stealing just to be away from the noise and the chaos, or whether it's a whole day, being purposeful with that time. Because I think it's really easy to sit down and say, I'm going to take some me time
Hmm.
and just like scroll on your phone and watch TV. And maybe that's recharging for you. If it is, I'm not knocking it. But I often find that I don't feel more relaxed. I just feel like I was lazy and I'm spending all my time thinking about the things that I should be accomplishing. And so
Hmm.
accomplishing something, whether that's just being outside playing golf, accomplishing something, whether that's going to the gym or accomplishing something like brewing beer, helps me get rid of that feeling of like I'm being lazy and I'm doing nothing, and I actually feel more recharged by doing it.
I get a lot of joy, not of doing dishes in abundance. But if I
Mm-hmm.
need like a quick win, washing
Mm-hmm.
one dish, because it's like, this was dirty, now it is clean. It took me
Sure.
30 seconds of uninterrupted time with my thoughts, and that's a W. So
Yeah.
that's a quick win I like.
Yeah, and so I think finding those little pockets of time, not everybody's going to have the ability or the space to, take a whole Saturday to themselves like we do. Obviously you are a prime example. Your wife's working. That's not negotiable right now. You've got the kids. But finding when she gets off being like, I need to do XYZ, whether it's during the summer months going to the driving range or whatever. I'm not trying to,
Mm-hmm.
tell you, or going on Sunday mornings. See, that's always a really much easier time. That's usually when I go play 9 holes. Is I'll
Yeah.
get up early on Sunday morning. My wife makes pancakes. The kids are manageable. It's like, all right, we're gonna hang out a little bit, and then I'll go play 9 holes, because that gets me recharged and ready to sort of take on the day and come back with a full head of steam, so that when I walk in that door, I'm ready to be like, all right, guys, let's get going.
You guys are a, two-car household though, right?
Yeah, we are a 2 car household, but we live in Stuart, Florida versus Washington D.C. So,
Sure,
you know,
sure. But
plenty,
what I
plenty
just
of
meant by
house.
that is my toddler has um, gymnastics on Sunday mornings, and the reason being is because um, it is a lot to do gymnastics with the little one without my wife.
Sure.
So we chose Sundays because she works Saturdays. So unfortunately for me, I don't necessarily have the ability to take the car and go out on a Sunday morning, knowing that I probably won't make it back in time um, for gymnastics. But that's a very specific
Sure.
thing.
Sure.
But I was just thinking about how like wonderfully nice that would be, because we also do pancake breakfasts post gymnastics, so it's a very similar Sunday
Sure.
morning. It's just, I'm not the one playing golf. It's my 3-year-old tumbling around on a
Yeah.
trampoline. So
Well, and for anybody out there who's struggling and coming up with similar things like you, of legitimate roadblocks to doing it, kind of like we were mentioning in our very first episode, our daycare episode, the one solution too is that it's a phase. There will be a point in your life where both your daughters maybe want to go to gymnastics, and they're both both doing the classes, and that's not that far off, or your wife's schedule changes or whatever it is.
mhm.
So I will say, when I lived in New York City, I did see people take their golf clubs on the subway. So it can be done if you're bold enough.
Yeah, that's
But
true.
the golf course would have to be close to the metro. So
Yeah, that's the caveat.
yeah, taking an Uber and a metro and all that stuff seems chaotic. But anyway,
Yeah.
um, that's all I've got on this topic. There's so much more that we can talk about on taking time for yourself, because I think it's just so valuable and important. But Ethan, you got anything else to add?
No, for everybody who tuned in tonight, or today, or whenever you're listening, thank you so much. I know we ran a little long, but hopefully you were able to use this time as an escape. And, you can always up the speed. I'm sure I sound much better on 1.5 or 1.75 than 1.
Oh my God, my headache. All right, guys. Well, thank you. Thank you for tuning in to Working on the Dad Pod. I'm Alex. That's Ethan. We'll catch you next time.
See ya. Thanks.